Good afternoon and welcome to Studio One on this Thursday, March 24th. It's good to have you with us. I'm Tim Bolduck. Tom Deering is off this week. Up ahead on this half hour, playwright and former United Nations wildlife management instructor Patrick Hemmingway. On our Open Door segment, a look at Lyle Lovett and his most recent hit. And finally, we'll talk to Bruce Gjovig, founding director of the nationally acclaimed Center for Innovation and Business Development at UND. But first, we go to the news desk with Kelly Evenson. Kelly?
Thank you, Tim. Several incidents of children being approached by a stranger have been reported to Grand Forks area police in the past few days. Children in Grand Forks and East Grand Forks have reported that a man has tried to lure them into his car. There were similar reports in Fargo last week. We have Grand Forks Police Captain Norm Hintz with us live today to give us more details. Captain Hintz, what has happened in each incident?
Well, the incidents reported to us in the past 24 hours, we had an occasion to interview 5 young children from the Winship School area who state to us that they had been approached either by hand gesture or by voice to come to this gentleman's car.
Do you have an accurate description of the man?
We feel the children have given us a very good description, and we are following many of the leads that have come in from the community who heard yesterday's news broadcasts, and we're looking at a couple of vehicles.
And what should parents be doing?
Well, this day is no different than any other. Parents should always be concerned about their children going to school, whether it be an ordinary day or any other day. There is always someone out there who may have some idea of either causing them harm or enticing them to their vehicle under some pretense. It's a safeguard parents need to address with their children, not to go with strangers.
Would you say that right now we have a panic situation?
At this point, I would not say that we need to look at a panic situation. At no point of time in the Grand Forks incidents has the individual ever left his automobile. Everything has been done through a rolled down window by gestures or verbal, some verbiage of some sort.
And what are the police doing right now?
Well, at the present time, we're putting as many people onto the streets, and especially during the times during the day when the children are out and are not chaperoned by someone in the educational field.
And if people see something happening, or if their children come home and say something has happened, what should they do?
Well, first of all, try to understand and make sure that the information is factual that the child has heard, or if he's heard it from someone else. And give us a call and tell us who our best source we should talk to for any other information.
Okay, thank you, Captain Hintz. Captain Hintz of the Grand Forks Police Department. As the semester winds down, you may be looking for summer work or more than summer work. And in our Odd Jobs department, Studio One's Debbie Fries found one that's a little different from most.
When you look in the paper, you may see ads for Midwestern girls to travel east to become nannies, and you may wonder if they're legitimate. They are. UND student Mary Strzeski went to the New York area to work for a family caring for a 4-month-old baby boy.
At first, when you go out to nanny, I think you have a rose-colored picture of what it's going to be like. You have to realize that you are their hired help.
UND student Kirsten Lalum said the long hours detracted from the pay.
The other nannies that I've spoken to, we've all had really long hours beginning. Sometimes I began 7 in the morning. I know some people began at 8. And we would go until 6, sometimes 6:30 or 7 at night.
Still, Mary says there are advantages to being a nanny.
The good advantage, I lived right across the Hudson River from New York City, and they did let me take the child in whenever I wanted, so every day we'd get on the bus with the stroller and the diaper bag and, go into the city and walk around New York. It was great.
For many, this may be their first time away from home. That and the fact that they are never really away from their work can result in a lot of pressure on the young people. But the agencies have support groups for the nannies while they're away.
It gave us a chance to get together. There were a lot of nannies from England in that area that I was in, 1 or 2 from Germany. So it was an interesting cultural blend.
Former nannies can give a little insight into what it's really like to be a nanny. There are drawbacks, but it is also a chance to see a different part of the country and experience how other people live. Debbie Fries, Studio One News.
And finally, a Bismarck Club owner wants to get you up for dinner. David Isaac is proposing to build a restaurant and lounge on top of the state capitol building by adding 2 floors. He says it would give diners the best view of North Dakota and it would be a tourist attraction. That's the news for today. Tim?
Thank you, Kelly. There are several must-see shows coming up at the Chester Fritz Auditorium. The New York tour of the Broadway production The King and I will be presented tomorrow at 8:15. On Sunday, singer-songwriter Roger Miller will be performing at 8:15, and also at the Fritz on Wednesday, March 30th, the Honors Day Convocation. This year's speaker is Dr. Kenneth Keller, former president of the University of Minnesota. Classes will be canceled that day from 1 to 3 p.m. so that all faculty and students can attend. So there's plenty of going on at the Chester Fritz. Now let's see what's happening with the weather. Here's Studio One's meteorologist, Jay Searles. Jay?
Thanks, Tim. Our blizzard-like conditions that we left with at spring break have departed very abruptly since we left. Spring-like conditions have returned to the Grand Forks area. In our almanac, we had a high yesterday of 47 degrees and a low this morning of 38 degrees with just a trace of rain. Currently at 4 in the Grand Forks area under a mostly cloudy sky. The temperature is 44 degrees, the winds are southwest at 10 miles per hour, and the relative humidity is 69%. Taking a look at our map across the nation, some spring-like conditions are occurring across the central U.S. A large area of high pressure off the Atlantic coast is spreading some very warm temperatures and moist air across much of the southeast. Temperatures are in the 70s and 80s. And behind this cold front, which is pushed in from the Pacific, temperatures are only in the 30s and 40s. This temperature contrast right in the middle of the United States is causing the fuel for some very powerful thunderstorms which will be developing across the central U.S. As a result, the National Weather Service has issued some severe thunderstorm watches across parts of Iowa and southern Minnesota. Across our region, basically just some light rain with this system, and that will be ending later on today. Across the west, some high pressure is beginning to move in, and we'll have temperatures very, very similar to these tomorrow. Another storm system is beginning to move into the Pacific Northwest with some light rain. That's what it looks like across the United States today. I'll be back a little later in the program with the Red River Valley weekend forecast. Tim?
Thank you, Jay. Well, according to the entertainment forecast, music will be in the air on Saturday, March 26th. A benefit recital is being held at 4 p.m. in the Josephine Campbell Recital Hall of the Hughes Fine Arts Center. The benefit recital, entitled Music for Peace, is co-sponsored by the University United and Red River Valley Peace Workers. Elizabeth Lewis, Charlotte Lewis, and Eleanor Johnson, known as the Belmont Trio, are the featured musical guests. There's no admission, but donations will be accepted. When we return, we'll talk with one of the many authors in this year's Writers' Conference, Patrick Hemmingway.
East Africa is not where most American couples might settle, but most aren't like Peace Corps volunteers Anita and Jim Powell's. They're teaching fish farming in a race against hunger, helping people to survive today's problems and tomorrow's. There'll be fish in the ponds and protein in the diets. No matter what your skill, you don't know how much you have to offer until you offer it. Take home a world of experience and leave behind something that will last for generations. Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
The 19th Annual Writers' Conference has been going on this past week. This year's theme, Parent and Child, reflects the works of each writers attending the conference. Our first guest is no exception. Patrick Hemmingway, son of one of the most famous contemporary writers, Ernest Hemingway, is also a writer himself. He has published several works, most recently a 2-act play co-written with his wife, Carol. The play will be featured as one of the events for the Writers' Conference. Welcome to Studio One, Patrick.
Thank you.
It's good to have you
a pleasure.
Here. Good to have you here. Now, I'm sure you get asked all the time about your father. How do you feel about that, going around and people asking constantly about your father?
Well, I'm very pleased that there's a continuing interest in Ernest Hemingway. He's been dead now since 1961, and there is still great interest in his work. He's had his ups and downs, but I think it's generally recognized that he's here to stay, and that's very, very nice. I'm very pleased to see that.
Now, being the son of such a well-known writer, have you felt that there's been any undue expectations or pressure on you to become a writer?
Not particularly. My choice of career took me out of the United States during a period when that might have been felt, I think. But you know, people sometimes aren't even aware that he did even have any children. I don't think it's a great pressure, no.
Now, in hearing you speak at the Writers' Conference, you don't consider yourself a writer.
No.
Why is that?
Well, I think a writer is a person who has, during the productive period of his life, devoted most of his time to that pursuit. That I've always been a reader, and there hasn't a day gone by but what I've devoted some time to that. But as a writer, I feel I've come very late to the game. My wife and I have written this play, but very late in life. Perhaps I'd like to be considered a writer from, you know, the period that I started, but that's pretty late.
Yeah. Well, now in the writing that you have done, do you feel that writing comes easy for you?
No. I don't find writing comes easy for me at all.
Did your father and you ever sit down and discuss whether you would become a writer?
We never did, because he leaned over backwards, never to in any way give us the impression that that's what he expected of us, that we were very much free to choose what we wanted to do. And
did he push you towards it or away from it? Or?
No, but he didn't push us away from it either. He was utterly neutral. But he has even written a story about one of us where he went to a great deal of trouble, in fact, to encourage an interest in writing. And he was a hands-off person about careers, very much so.
Now, I understand you spent some time in Africa.
Yes, most of my grown-up life was spent in Africa.
You were a wildlife manager?
Yes, I initially was a professional hunter, an outfitter, and then I worked for, actually a longer period of time as a FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, wildlife forestry officer was the term. But I taught in a school that was set up to train game and park wardens for the African Wildlife Services.
Was it that particular thing that attracted you to
Yes, I reached the point where it was no longer possible for personal reasons to carry on as a guide, because I was away from home too much, and so I very much welcomed the opportunity to teach in this school and still have a hand in wildlife, but not have to be, out in the field every day, and away from home.
Well, now most everybody knows that there are dangerous animals in Africa. Could you describe
I do
close
think
calls
that is one of the attractions of hunting in Africa. We have dangerous animals in North America. The grizzly bear is probably as dangerous as any animal that's found in Africa, but there are a number of dangerous animals in Africa, and that I would say that the most satisfying experience I ever had in that score was I had a high school friend. We both we were very good friends in high school. Jim Manupelli was his name, and he came from Connecticut. And once I was established in the business, I got a letter from him saying that he and a friend of his had gone to the bank and borrowed a considerable sum of money, and they were using that money to come on a safari with me, and would I be able to take them out? And I said, oh, no greater pleasure. And so they came on their bank loan, and we had a nice trip. But then
something happened.
Something went wrong, and we had shot at this buffalo. He had shot at it, and instead of running away, it gathered up its feet and so on and came right at us. And Jim and I, we must have fired when it was about 10 yards away, you know, and we both hit it right under the front horn, you know. That's the spot you're supposed to hit. And the front feet collapsed, and it just slid right into us. And it just it was rather dusty, and it just covered us in dust, and it just stayed right there, you know, and we both looked at each other and we thought, boy, you know, did we ever think when we were in high school that we would be doing this? So that was a very nice experience for me, you know, that I could do it with someone my own age, because most of the people by that time I was taking out were much older. They had the money to come and so forth, and I always thought it was a good idea that they'd borrowed the money, you know. And,
well, I'm sure you got tons of stories you could tell us about.
Well, there's a lot of stories, you know. You had a sort of fund of stories, and one of the things that you always trotted out was, what was the most dangerous thing to kill in Africa?
Well, we're running out of time. I'm going to have to cut you short here.
Right.
But it was really nice having you here.
A pleasure.
Hope to see you again. Author and playwright Patrick Hemmingway. Mr. Hemmingway will appear at a noon panel tomorrow entitled Fathers and Sons. Then at 3 o'clock, he will present a reading of one of his works. And the final event of this year's Writers' Conference, a reading of the Hemingway's play Mama Ginny's Lion. This will take place Saturday at 1 o'clock in the Grand Forks Public Library. After this break, our Open Door segment takes a fun look at love.
We give you the truth. Uncensored. Powerful documentaries every week.
South Africa belongs to all the people who live in it, not to one group, be it black or white.
I'm too old. I'm too fat.
We're a long way from equality in any field.
Uncensored. Discover it every week on NCTV.
According to the calendar, this is the first week of spring, and if you've heard the expression, with spring comes romance, you'll appreciate our Open Door segment. Courtesy of NCTV, Lyle Lovett gives us a lighter look at marital bliss, singing She's No Lady, She's My Wife.
She hates my mama, she hates my daddy too. She loves to tell me she hates the things I do. She loves to lie beside me almost every night. Well, she's no lady, she's my wife. The preacher asked her, and she said, I do. The preacher asked me, and she said, yes, he does too. The preacher said, I pronounce you 99 to life. Son, she's no lady, she's your wife. And I can't remember how I met her. Seems like she's always just been a hanging here off my right arm. And I can't remember how I ever thought that I just couldn't live without a woman's charm. And even though she loves the smell of French perfume, and even though she walks around in high heel shoes, well, all I know is I'm the one who pays her price. Man, she's no lady, she's my wife. I can't remember how I met her. Seems like she's always just been a hanging here off my right arm. And I can't remember how I ever thought that I just couldn't live without a woman's charm. Yeah, she hates my mama, she she hates my daddy too. She loves to tell me how much she hates the things I do. She loves to lie beside me almost every night. Well, she's no lady, she's my wife. Well, she's no lady, she's my wife.
Our next guest is known as a champion for investors and entrepreneurs in the upper Midwest. As the founding director of the Center for Innovation and Business Development at UND, Bruce Gjovig has been strategically involved in most business ventures and is a big reason the center is receiving national attention. Most recently, he is working as project manager, editor, and sponsor of the Entrepreneur Kit, a national publication that is changing business in North Dakota. Welcome to Studio One, Bruce.
Good, glad to be here.
Now, the Center for Innovation, what does it do?
Basically, our mission is to provide business and technical support services to inventors, entrepreneurs, small manufacturers in North Dakota, Northwest Minnesota, as well as we provide technology transfer services to both UND and NDSU.
Mm-hmm. Now, what, in your philosophy, makes a company innovative or successful?
Well, if a company is not constantly improving itself and finding innovation, better ways to satisfy their customers and their clients, whoever they may be, that is really the secret for any company to either grow or to start up. Finding a better way to do something. Mm-hmm. Be more productive, more effective, better quality, innovative, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Now, you seem to be on the forefront of trying to develop North Dakota economically. How are you going about doing this?
Well, I think when you say that, realize that our market really is startups and expansion of small manufacturers to new product development. We're in the forefront of that area. Certainly that's not true in recruiting and some other aspects of economic development. Certainly, I don't want to take away from Dean Odegaard and what he's doing with aerospace sciences, which is not what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But in our area of startups and new product introduction, we're on the forefront there. And we do that through helping creative people realize their dreams, and through the process of evaluation, feasibility studies, planning, bringing in technical services, helping them find financing, and then help them strategically position their company and their product in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you find that the state is willing to provide a platform for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think so. It's more so than it has been. Typically, North Dakota should be an entrepreneurial state. We have lots of self-employed people. About 17% of our population is self-employed. But I think they've gotten more entrepreneurial in the last 5 years. And I think like the Great Plains software success from Fargo and watching Harold Schaefer with Gold Seal and some of those things has helped them realize that, yes, it can be done here.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard some talk about an Entrepreneur Kit.
Right.
Briefly, could you explain what the Entrepreneur Kit is?
What it is, it's a self-help guide to writing a business plan and a marketing plan. Two critical elements in both an existing business as well as startup business. And by really answering some questions and then saying, here's your objective by answering those questions, writing it up, and common mistakes to avoid, we developed a guide where the average person never had written a business plan before can do a good job of writing a business plan, which then he can use to attract financing or to attract critical personnel to his company or mm-hmm. to other resources which are necessary to make the company go.
Now, are you or the Center for Innovation responsible for founding the Entrepreneur Kit?
Right. I conceived the idea because so many of our clients needed that help, and they were going to too many consultants and professionals, and it's something I believe they could do for themselves. And so Mike O'Donnell, when he was with the center staff, put him on that project, and I sort of served as editor and the support staff, and he did the actual writing and collecting information and putting it together, and then I sort of reviewed it, and then we licensed to Lord Publishing of Boston. And just matter of fact, in the next month, it's going to press. Right now it's at the press, and it should be released this next month.
Interesting. Now, I understand the kit is marketed nationally.
Right.
How did that happen?
Well, the reviews, when we sent out complimentary copies around the country, the review came back that it was the highest quality business plan publication of its kind in the nation, which we're very happy about that. And then on top of that, they said it's the most user-friendly, which means the average person can do it and actually do a business plan with it. It's not an academic exercise or hard, difficult to understand. And so that, with those reviews, it gave us a chance then, a lot of people got interested in it. And so it's going to go out to the entrepreneur market, the entrepreneur or the corporate entrepreneur market, the academic market to bring it into classrooms like in management where they should do a business plan, And then, of course, the business consulting market, which are people who help others write business plans. So it's going to those 4 basic markets. Now, interestingly, it's also going to a European market. We're now in the process of translating to German so that we can get it into the European markets.
Well, that's great to hear that there's so many things happening, Bruce. It's great to have you on the show.
You bet.
Thanks for being here. Business consultant and founding director of the Center of Innovation and Business Development, Bruce Gjovig. When we return, Jay Searles will give us the weekend forecast.
How does this man consistently draw 2,000 students a year to New York's most talked about film class? How does he attract the finest creative talent in the film world? Guests like Woody Allen, Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese, Dustin Hoffman, Deborah Winger, William Hurt, Steven Spielberg, Robin Williams, Robert Redford, Shirley MacLaine, just to name a few? Why do his students describe him as brilliant, charismatic, and his class provocative, inspiring, exhilarating? Find out for yourself. Richard Brown's Screening Room, a whole new way to look at movies. Watch it on NCTV.
Says that colon cancer is 90% curable if treated early. Maybe we should get a checkup.
Honey, I have more important things to worry about right now.
UND's Theater Arts Department will be conducting auditions for its summer season on Saturday from 11 to 1 p.m. and then again on Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Roles in the 2 shows, Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, and Spoon River Anthology, will be offered to both singers and actors. If you're planning to audition, you'll have to prepare a song and a 2-minute monologue. For more information, contact UND's Theater Department. Now, meteorologist Jay Searles tells us if spring is really here to stay. Jay?
Thank you, Tim. I think springtime's here to stay for quite a while. We have an area of low pressure over northern eastern Minnesota for tomorrow morning and trailing down to a cold front, another area of low pressure over northeastern Iowa. Showers will extend along this front, back across parts of northern Minnesota, and even some light snow across southern Ontario as well. Across much of the western parts of the tri-state area, in Montana and Wyoming, temperatures tomorrow morning will be in the 30s and 20s. Not too bad. Clear skies as well. Forecast in detail for tonight, we'll have mostly cloudy skies with a low of 34 degrees. Winds will be out of the west at 10 to 15 miles per hour with a 30% chance of light rain. For tomorrow, a cloudy morning giving way to partly cloudy skies by afternoon. We'll have a high of 38 degrees. Winds will be northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour with a 20% chance of showers. Those will be mainly in the morning. Extended outlook for the weekend, partly cloudy skies on Saturday with a high of 30 to 35 degrees. Sunday a little warmer. Cloudy skies, however, will begin to move in and we'll have a high of 35 to 40. That's what it looks like. Spring is here. Have a great weekend. Tim?
Thank you, Jay. We'd like to thank our guests, Patrick Hemmingway and Bruce Gjovig, for being with us today, and a special thanks to our friends at NCTV for providing us with our Open Door segment. From all of us here at Studio One, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.